"Sit in his chair," someone whispered, "and try not to break it." Maya Brooks stood in the glass room with a silver tray cutting into her palms, her black apron still damp from the kitchen steam, and a brass tag lying under the folded white napkin like a verdict. On it, engraved cleanly enough to look expensive, were 5 words: Course 13. Let the big girl sit. A wine glass waited beside Dante Russo's chair, untouched, while the red eye of a corner camera blinked like it already knew what would happen next. 3 hours earlier, Maya had been in the staff bathroom behind the Meridian, pressing both hands against the sink and counting her breaths until they sounded normal. The mirror above her was cracked at the corner, splitting her reflection into 2 women. One with tired brown eyes and flour on her sleeve from helping pastry plate desserts, the other with a face practiced in not reacting. She adjusted the apron over her stomach, not because it hid anything, but because her hands needed something to do. She hated chairs. Not all chairs. Just the moment before sitting. The tiny pause when wood creaked, when strangers glanced down, when memory opened its mouth. 2 years ago, a booth at a cheap diner had snapped beneath her during a birthday dinner for a coworker. Someone had filmed it. Someone had laughed before asking if she was hurt. The clip had lasted 12 seconds online, but in Maya's body it had never ended. Since then, she stood when she could, checked chair legs when she couldn't, and apologized to furniture before people had the chance to. Tonight was supposed to be simple. 12 VIP guests. 1 private tasting. No mistakes. The glass room belonged to Dante Russo, the man no one in Chicago described too loudly. He owned the casino legally, the restaurant beautifully, and everything around it in ways people only discussed in lowered voices. Maya had served his rooms before, but never him directly. She knew his rules from the way staff whispered them. No raised voices, no phones at table, no touching his glass once it was poured. At 8:57, Adrienne Vale appeared by the service station in a pearl-colored dress and a smile soft enough to hide teeth. "Maya, sweetheart," she said, placing a covered tray in Maya's hands. "They asked for you." Maya looked down at the tray. It was too light for food. "My station is B. Tonight, your station is where you're useful." Adrienne's eyes slipped from Maya's apron to her waist, then back up with polished concern. "Try not to look frightened. Rooms like this can make some girls feel larger than they are." The words were quiet, almost kind. That made them worse. Maya carried the tray through the glass doors anyway, because rent was due Friday, because her brother's inhaler was empty, because women like her learned early that humiliation still counted as paid time if you survived the shift. The room turned when she entered. No one laughed. They did not have to. Their silence had elbows. It nudged her toward the empty place beside Dante's black leather chair, where the place setting had been arranged like a trap dressed for dinner. Dante Russo looked at her without warmth. Broad shoulders, charcoal suit, one hand resting near the base of his untouched wine glass. When Maya lifted the napkin and saw the brass tag, her throat tightened, but her fingers did not let go of the tray. Adrienne's voice floated from behind her. "Oh, Maya, don't make this uncomfortable." Dante stood. The room seemed to lose air. He reached for his own chair and pulled it out, slow enough for every guest to understand the insult had just changed owners. "Sit," he said. Maya did not move. Her eyes had dropped to the back left leg of the chair. The screw there sat proud of the wood, not fallen, not old, not loose by accident. Dante saw where she was looking. He did not believe her yet, but something in his face stopped being bored. "Again," he said, lower this time. Maya swallowed, then whispered, "That chair was touched after setup, and under the left back leg, tucked against the shadow where no guest would see it. The loosened screw carried a smear of fresh white polish from Adrienne Vale's fingernail. The white polish on the screw was so small that anyone else could have called it nothing. A scratch. A trick of chandelier light. A waitress trying to save herself from embarrassment. But Maya had spent 6 years noticing things rich people never thought the help could see. Lipstick left on the wrong glass. A wedding ring turned inward before a mistress arrived. A folded 20 slid under a coffee saucer after a man asked for silence instead of service. She knew the difference between old damage and fresh touch. Dante Russo's eyes remained on the screw for one beat too long, then lifted to Maya's face. He did not comfort her. He did not defend her. That almost hurt worse until she understood what he was doing. He was measuring the room. Adrienne's smile tightened by half an inch. "Dante," she said softly, the way someone might speak near a nervous animal. "I'm sure Maya is overwhelmed. This is a very visible room. Not everyone is comfortable being looked at." A woman near the end of the table lowered her champagne flute and gave a tiny breath of laughter through her nose. The sound did not become a laugh. It did not need to. Maya felt it land on her apron, on her hips, on the part of her that still remembered the diner booth cracking beneath her while strangers pretended shock before choosing amusement. Her hands wanted to fold over her stomach. Instead, she reached slowly into the front pocket of her apron and took out her order pad. The paper was soft at the corners from sweat and kitchen steam. She opened it to the setup page she had copied at 6:12 p.m., before service, before the private doors locked, before anyone decided her body should become part of the menu. 12 seats, Maya said. Her voice was not loud, but it held. 4 courses. No chair beside Mr. Russo. No course 13. Adrienne tilted her head with gentle pity. "Sweetheart, staff copies change. That's why management uses tablets." She tapped the black tablet tucked beneath her arm as if it were a Bible and Maya had brought a grocery list to church. Dante held out his hand. Adrienne paused only long enough for the pause to be seen. Then she placed the tablet in his palm. He looked down. The room stayed very still. Somewhere beyond the glass, the casino kept breathing. Slot machines chiming, ice dropping into buckets, a dishwasher thundering behind the kitchen wall like distant. Then, Maya heard all of it because the people in front of her had stopped making human sounds. Dante turned the tablet once toward the light. 13, he said. Nothing else. Adrienne gave a careful laugh. A late addition. Senator Harlan's assistant confirmed an extra guest. Name. Dante's voice was mild. That was what made it cold. Adrienne blinked. I'd have to check the final list. You approved it. Of course. Through the office. Maya's eyes dropped to the screen before Adrienne could angle it away. There, beneath the neat grid of names and table numbers, was a gray edit line nearly hidden by the edge of Dante's thumb. Updated 8:47 p.m. by executive override. Her stomach tightened. 8:47 was the minute Adrienne had handed her the covered tray. At the far end of the table, the woman with the champagne shifted her phone against her napkin. The screen lit for 1 second. Maya saw the camera app open, then a caption typed and waiting. When the help thinks she's the date. Heat rose behind Maya's eyes, but she did not look away. She reached for the brass tag with her towel instead of her fingers and folded it into the corner of her apron, careful not to smear the polish on the screw. Leave it, Adrienne said quickly. Too quickly. Then she softened her voice. Maya, don't make this worse for yourself. Nobody is accusing you. Dante's gaze moved from Adrienne to the apron pocket where the tag had disappeared. No, he said. Not yet. The words made the senator set down his fork. Adrienne's perfume drifted between them, expensive and powdery, the same scent now clinging to the back of Dante's chair where no guest had sat. Maya looked again at her order pad, then at the tablet. The wrong chart did not just have an extra seat. It had her employee number typed into the guest column, beside the words special presentation. Special presentation sat on the tablet like a clean little murder. Not a joke scrawled by drunk guests. Not a mistake from a tired hostess. Typed, approved, hidden inside the kind of software Maya had never been allowed to touch. She felt the room waiting for her to shrink under it. The senator's assistant glanced at her body and then at the empty chair, as if the two belonged together in a sentence no one had to say out loud. Adrienne's voice arrived soft and bright. It's an internal service term, Dante. The staff sometimes dramatize things. Maya may have misunderstood. Maya could have let that word pass. Misunderstood. Women like her were handed that word whenever the truth made expensive people uncomfortable. She looked down at the place setting beside Dante's chair instead. The napkin there was folded into a standing crown. Guest fold. The other 12 napkins were flat service folds, the kind used when the kitchen still needed to move plates quickly. Whoever made that seat had not added it for a server to rest. They had dressed it for a person the room intended to watch. Maya reached toward the water pitcher. Adrienne's smile thinned. Careful, sweetheart. Those glasses are baccarat. Maya did not answer. She lifted the silver pitcher and placed it on the table 2 inches to the right, exactly where the polished belly of it reflected the corner camera in the glass wall. The red light was not pointed at Dante. It was not pointed at the senator, or the wine, or the contract folders stacked neatly near Victor Hale's elbow. It was pointed at the space where Maya would have landed if the chair gave way. Dante saw the reflection. His hand stopped near his wine glass. He did not look at Maya like he trusted her. He looked at her like she had become harder to dismiss. "Why move the pitcher?" he asked. Quiet, almost bored. But the room heard the blade under it. Maya kept her fingers on the handle so no one would see them tremble. "Because camera 4 is angled wrong." A man in a navy suit laughed once. "The waitress knows camera angles now?" Adrian touched his sleeve with 2 fingers, a graceful warning to let her handle the mess. "Maya has worked long shifts all week. Exhaustion can make patterns feel personal." There it was again. The knife wrapped in silk. Exhausted. Emotional. Big girls taking up too much space and then imagining the world had noticed. Maya reached into her apron and pulled out a narrow wine order slip, folded twice and damp at the edge. She had taken it from the service printer at 8:33 because the seller request had looked wrong. "This came from the private bar," she said. "It says table 12. There is no table 12 in this room. The glass room is coded G1. Dante held out his hand. This time Maya hesitated before giving it to him. Adrian watched that hesitation and smiled, as if she had found a bruise to press. "Dante, she is removing service documents from their stations. We can address that with HR after dinner." Maya placed the slip in Dante's hand anyway. The paper looked small against his fingers. His eyes moved over the print. "Bourbon Reserve. 2 glasses. Guest 13. Deliver 8:48. He looked at his untouched wine glass. Then at the second empty glass beside the false seat. "I ordered one," he said. "No anger. No surprise. Just fact." Victor Hale leaned forward slightly, his expression calm in the way powerful men stayed calm when they expected everyone else to panic for them. "Private bar makes mistakes." Maya heard his voice and something cold passed through her. Not because of what he said. Because she had heard that same voice through the kitchen door 20 minutes earlier, lower then, saying, "Make sure the angle catches the chair." She did not accuse him. Not yet. She only turned her eyes to the glass wall again. The red camera light blinked once, then went dark. A second later, Adrienne's tablet chimed with a notification she muted too fast. Dante saw her thumb move. Maya saw the banner before it disappeared. Camera 4 offline. Manual override accepted. The notification vanished, but the room did not recover from it. Camera 4 had gone dark in front of all of them, and still no one moved as if anything serious had happened. That was how rich rooms protected themselves. They did not deny the fire. They simply adjusted the lighting until the smoke looked intentional. Adrian slid the tablet beneath her arm and turned to Maya with the kind of sympathy people used when they were already writing someone out of a story. "You see," she said gently, "this is exactly why staff aren't meant to interpret security systems. A camera resets, a printer mislabels a table, and suddenly a hardworking girl convinces herself she is being targeted." The word hardworking should have sounded kind. In Adrienne's mouth, it sounded like a broom being put back in a closet. Maya's thumb pressed against the folded wine slip inside her apron. She could feel the damp paper softening from her skin. She wanted to say Victor's voice had been behind the kitchen door. She wanted to say the chair had been touched, the glass staged, the camera aimed like a weapon. But wanting the truth and proving it were 2 different things, and Maya had learned that women with bodies like hers were rarely given the space between the 2. Dante set the wine slip on the table. "No one leaves. He did not raise his voice. The sentence still made the nearest security guard straighten by the door. Victor Hale's expression stayed smooth, but his fingers stopped tapping the stem of his glass. Adrian gave a small social laugh. Dante, the senator has a toast in 10 minutes. Dante looked at her. Then he has 9. Silence moved through the glass room like cold water under a door. Dante turned back to Maya. Who signed the original setup? Maya swallowed. Every pair of eyes in the room found her apron, her cheeks, her hips, the place where her name tag sat slightly crooked from carrying trays. She fixed the tag with 2 fingers before answering.
Elena Ortiz.
Head server. 6:12 p.m. Who has access after setup? Floor captain, security lead, private bar, and executive override. What was changed after setup? Adrienne's smile sharpened. Dante. This is becoming uncomfortable for her. Maya looked at the false place setting. The empty second glass. The crown-fold napkin. The untouched dessert cart waiting near the service door. The chair. The guest count. The camera angle. And dessert. A board member in a silver tie leaned back. Dessert. He made the word sound ridiculous. Like a fat waitress noticing food was the joke everyone expected. A few mouths twitched. Maya felt the old diner laughter rise inside her chest. Wooden booth cracking, phones lifting, strangers deciding her pain was entertainment. She gripped the tray handle until the metal hurt her palm. Then she pulled a narrow receipt from the same apron pocket and placed it beside Dante's wine slip. Private dessert add-on, she said. Printed at 8:32. Almond panna cotta for the right side of the table. Senator Harlan's assistant went pale. Senator Harlan is allergic to almonds. Adrian did not miss a beat. Which is exactly why that dish would never have left the kitchen. Maya, I appreciate your concern, but you are crossing lines you may not understand. I understand receipts, Maya said. It was the first sentence she had spoken without apology. Dante looked at the receipt, then at Adrian. You approved this. My office approves dozens of kitchen adjustments. That doesn't mean I personally reviewed every garnish. Victor finally spoke, low and reasonable. Dante, let security handle the log quietly. No need to turn a staff anxiety episode into theater. Staff anxiety episode. Maya tasted the words like pennies. Dante's eyes did not move from Victor. Pull the keycard log. The guard by the door hesitated just long enough to show fear had entered the chain of command. Then he tapped his radio. Adrian exhaled as if forgiving everyone. Fine. Pull the log. Then we can let Maya step out with dignity before this costs her position. She reached into a leather folder and slid a form across the table toward Maya. Incident statement. Pre-written. I mishandled service materials and misunderstood a private seating adjustment. Maya read it once. Then she put the pen down without signing. Dante watched the pen stop. Adrienne's eyes cooled for the first time. The radio at the guard's shoulder crackled. Access at 8:41. Glass room. Executive override. Adrienne's shoulders relaxed, almost imperceptibly, as if the words had saved her. But Maya was looking at the receipt in Dante's hand, where the dessert approval had printed 9 minutes earlier under Adrian Vale's office code, before any executive override had entered the room. The receipt sat between them like a clock that had learned to accuse. 8:32. Adrienne's office code.
Almond panna cotta.
9 minutes before the executive override. 9 minutes before the room had officially changed. Maya watched. Dante read the line once, then a second time, slower, as if the paper might rearrange itself into something loyal. It did not. Adrian reached for calm first. She was good at it. Her shoulders lowered, her mouth softened, and her eyes returned to the kind of polished pity that made cruelty look like concern. That code routes through my office automatically, she said. Maya wouldn't know that. Most staff don't understand how approvals populate. The word staff landed with its usual weight. Not a person. A category. Something replaceable in black shoes. Maya could feel the pre-written statement still on the table beside her hand, waiting for her signature like a quiet trap. She did not touch the pen. Dante placed the receipt beside the wine slip, lining up the times with the edge of his thumb. He had beautiful hands for a dangerous man. Clean nails, no rings, no wasted movement. What else? He asked. Not to Adrian. To Maya. The room noticed. Adrian noticed most of all. Maya's apron pocket suddenly felt heavy. Not because of the brass tag. Because of the old phone beneath it. The screen was cracked through the corner. The case yellowed from years of kitchen heat. The charging port loose enough that she had to tilt the cable at night and pray. It had one saved emergency contact, her brother Eli, and a voice memo app she used because management's order system erased notes after every shift. Maya had kept orders there, table changes, allergy reminders, little proof that her memory was not the problem when someone richer wanted it to be. Her fingers closed around it. Adrian saw. Maya, she said very gently. Before you make another choice you can't take back, remember that recording guests in a private room is a serious violation. Maya looked at her. I didn't record guests. Victor Hale leaned back slightly, the first movement he had made that was not perfectly controlled. Dante saw it. Maya did not hand the phone to security. She placed it flat on the white tablecloth and kept 2 fingers on the cracked screen. This was in my apron in the service hall, she said. At 8:39. I was checking the dessert count. A man near the window muttered. Something about lawsuits. The senator's assistant looked at the almond receipt again and stopped breathing normally. Dante's lawyer, a gray-haired woman who had been silent until now, stepped forward with a napkin folded around her hand. Chain of custody, she said. Only then did Maya lift her fingers. The first memo was mostly kitchen noise. Dishwasher thunder, plates sliding, someone laughing too hard near the espresso machine. Then Adrienne's voice came through, lower than the room had heard it all night. Make sure she sits before dessert. A pause. A male voice answered, too muffled to place. Adrian again, sharper this time. If the chair breaks, don't help too fast. We need the room to see it. No one spoke. The silence did not fall. It tightened. Maya stared at the phone because looking at faces would make the old diner memory too close. The booth cracking. The camera lifting. Someone asking if she was okay while already laughing. Adrian exhaled through her nose, almost amused. That could be edited. Or misunderstood. Staff repeat things. They gossip. They dramatize. There's more, Maya said. Her voice was smaller now, but it did not bend. She tapped the next file. Only 3 seconds played before static swallowed the rest. Adrienne's voice again. Rushed and angry. Call Crane. Dante went completely still. Not angry. Worse. Remembering. Victor's eyes dropped to the contract folders near his elbow for less than a second. But it was enough. Dante turned his head toward the man who had sat beside him for 12 years and asked very softly, Why would she know that name? Dante's question did not land on Victor like an accusation. It landed softer than that, and because it was soft, the room understood it was worse. Victor Hale looked at the old phone on the table, then at Maya, then back to Dante with the patient expression of a man used to cleaning blood from conversations before anyone noticed the stain. Crane does business with half the waterfront, he said. It's not a secret name. Dante did not blink. Not to her. The dishwasher thundered somewhere behind the wall, plates knocking against metal racks, a normal restaurant sound trying and failing to make the room feel normal again. Rain tapped the glass above the casino lights. A spoon shifted against a saucer near the senator, and the tiny sound made 3 people look down. Maya kept both hands folded against her apron because if she touched the old phone again, everyone would see how badly she was shaking. Adrian recovered first. Dante, please. This is becoming unfair to Maya. She clearly overheard fragments and is connecting them to things she doesn't understand. Maya looked at her then. I understand my name was typed into a guest column. Adrienne's eyes cooled. And I understand that you need this job. There it was. Not a threat loud enough to punish. A reminder soft enough to deny. Maya felt it in her ribs, where rent lived, where her brother's inhaler lived, where every unpaid bill learned to breathe. Dante's lawyer stepped closer to the table and opened one of the black folders near Victor's elbow. Victor's hand moved an inch, then stopped when Dante looked at it. "Leave it," Dante said. The lawyer turned the folder around. Inside was a port contract, thick, cream-colored paper, the kind rich men signed without imagining the hands that cleaned the table afterward. Dante's signature sat on the last page. Perfect. Too perfect. Maya had seen his real signature once on a holiday bonus memo taped in the staff hall. It slashed downward at the end like a blade refusing to be polite. This one curved softly. "That's not yours," she said before she could stop herself. Every face turned. Heat climbed her neck. Victor almost smiled. "You're a handwriting expert now?" Maya swallowed.
No.
"I read the Christmas memo every day for 2 weeks because my name was spelled wrong on the bonus list. Your signature cuts through the last O. That one doesn't." Silence pulled tight around the table. Dante looked at the contract, then at Maya. Not kindly, not yet, but differently. "What else was wrong on the list?" he asked. She hesitated. It was such a small question. That made it dangerous. "Tips," she said. "Some of us had deductions. Uniform damage. Guest complaints. Image reassignment." Adrian let out a fragile laugh. "Image reassignment is a scheduling note. It always happened to the same women," Maya said. "Women they said didn't photograph well." The words hung there, ugly in their cleanliness. She reached beneath the edge of her apron. Fingers finding the torn seam, she had stitched herself after a guest spilled wine and management charged her for replacement fabric. From inside the lining, she pulled a folded strip of paper, thin as a secret. A shift log, torn in half, rewritten in 2 inks. 9 employee numbers circled. Beside one line, the letters MB and the words chair risk approved. "I kept it because my number was on it," she said. "Not because I wanted money. I just wanted one piece of paper in this building to say what actually happened." Dante took it with the edge of a napkin. His face changed so little most people missed it. Maya did not. The cold in him moved inward. The lawyer laid the torn log beside the contract, the receipt, the wine slip, the brass tag, and the old phone. A small museum of things people thought a waitress would be too tired, too scared, or too ashamed to save. Dante looked at the letters MB for a long time. "Meridian board," he said quietly. Adrienne's mouth parted, then closed. Victor looked down 1 second too late. And in that second, Dante Russo finally understood that the woman they had dressed as a joke had been carrying proof through his own house while the man he trusted most held the door open for the lie. Dante did not move for so long that the room began to move for him. A thumb tightened around a wine stem. A heel shifted under the table. Adrienne's tablet buzzed once against her ribs, and she did not dare look down. Victor Hale sat with the torn shift log reflected in his empty glass. His face calm but not clean anymore. Maya saw the change before anyone said it. The room had stopped watching her body and started watching the evidence. Dante folded the torn log once, not to hide it, but to protect it. Then he looked at Maya. "Walk me through it." For words.
No worms. No promise.
Still, something inside her steadied because he had not said explain yourself. He had said walk me, as if the path she saw mattered. Maya looked toward the service door. The tray came from there, not the main kitchen, the private hall. Adrian gave a soft breath. "Dante, please. She is exhausted." Dante did not look at her. "Then don't interrupt her." The silence after that was so complete even the casino beyond the glass seemed far away. Maya picked up the clipboard from the service cart. It belonged to the floor captain, a thing she had carried 100 times but never opened because women like her were expected to deliver decisions, not read them. Her fingers paused on the metal clip. Dante noticed. "Open it." She did. Inside was the final service sheet, the one that should have matched her order pad. It did not. Her employee number had been moved from Station B to Guest Action, a phrase so ugly in its neat black print that Maya's throat tightened. Beneath it, one line had been added in different ink. "Ask about course 13 only after dessert." Maya looked up slowly. "That wasn't on my copy." Victor leaned back. "Service notes change during events." His voice was smooth again, almost bored. Adrienne's smile returned in pieces. Exactly. Maya saw a staff sheet and assumed it meant something personal. Maya touched the paper, not the words, the corner. A small crescent of pale pink polish marked the edge where someone had turned the page before the ink dried. Same shade as the smear on the screw. Same shade as Adrienne's nails. Dante saw it because Maya did not point to it. She only went still. He followed her eyes. "Who ordered course 13? He asked. The question sounded harmless enough that one of the guests almost relaxed. Adrienne answered too quickly. Crane's people used that phrase. It was crude. I told them not to. Maya looked at her. I never said Crane knew the phrase. Adrienne's smile did not vanish. It froze in place. A phone buzzed inside Victor's jacket. Once, twice. No one moved. Dante held out his hand without looking away from Adrienne. Phone. Victor's jaw tightened by a fraction. Dante. Phone. The second word was quieter than the first. Victor removed it and placed it face down on the table. The screen lit against the white cloth before Dante touched it. A message preview appeared from a number. Saved only as C. She's asking about 13. Kill the hallway backup. Maya felt the floor tilt, but her hand stayed flat on the clipboard. Dante took his own phone from his pocket, pressed one button, and said, Lock all backups. Hallway first. Somewhere above them, a camera light blinked awake. Adrienne looked at Maya then, really looked, and for the first time there was no pity in her face, only the quiet shock of realizing the waitress had not been standing alone for several minutes. The hallway camera came alive with one small red blink, and the entire glass room seemed to understand that something had shifted beyond language. Victor's phone lay face down on the table, still glowing at the edges. Adrienne stood so straight she looked carved from pearl, but Maya saw the pulse jumping in her throat. Dante did not touch the phone. He did not touch the contract. He only looked at the glass wall and said, Clear it. The security guard by the door hesitated. Dante's eyes moved to him, and the hesitation died. A switch clicked somewhere near the service station. The one-way glass that had been built to let powerful people watch without being watched turned transparent, panel by panel, until the casino beyond it could see in. Slot machines kept chiming. A woman in a red cocktail dress stopped mid-laugh. A dealer paused with cards in his hand. The room that had waited to see Maya fall was now visible to everyone. Maya felt the air leave her lungs, but she did not step back. Dante's lawyer connected a small drive to the wall screen. The first image appeared without sound. Hallway footage from 8:38 p.m. Adrienne stood outside the service door, one hand on the covered tray, the other touching Maya's apron pocket like she was straightening it. The angle widened. Victor Hale entered from the private corridor with Dante's executive keycard between two fingers. Not borrowing it. Not discovering it. Using it like habit. No one spoke. The footage jumped to 8:41. Victor knelt beside Dante's chair and turned the back left screw with a pocket tool no bigger than a pen. Adrienne watched the hallway, smiling at a passing server as if she were approving floral arrangements. On the screen, Maya appeared 3 minutes later, alone, carrying the tray they had placed in her hands. In the glass room, Adrienne whispered, That doesn't prove context. Her voice sounded expensive and thin. Maya reached into her apron and pulled out the brass tag wrapped in a towel. She placed it on the table beside the torn shift log, the almond receipt, and her cracked old phone. Then give it context, she said. Her voice trembled once. She let it. Tell them why my employee number was in the guest column. Adrienne looked at Dante, not Maya. That was her mistake. Dante was staring at the screen where the next file opened. An original port contract from the legal archive on the left, the version in Victor's folder on the right. One page was different. One clause handed Crane Logistics access to 2 Meridian storage terminals for 90 days without board review. Dante's signature sat beneath it, neat and wrong. Maya saw his face then. Not rage. Rage would have been easier. His color drained so quietly it felt private, almost indecent to witness. For the first time all night, Dante Russo looked less like a man people feared and more like a man realizing fear had not protected the people under his roof. His eyes moved over the evidence like each piece had weight. The chair, the false seat, the receipt, the old phone, the women circled on the shift log. 9 women, maybe more, all used because someone had counted on the world laughing before it listened. Victor stood. Dante, listen to me. Dante did not look at him. I did. The audio from Maya's phone played again through the speakers. Bigger now, impossible to bury under kitchen noise. Adrienne's voice filled the casino. If the chair breaks, don't help too fast. We need the room to see it. People beyond the glass went still. Maya kept both hands flat on the table so she would not hide them. Then the final clip loaded. Victor in the hallway, telling Crane's man, Russo won't question it. He never sees the staff unless they bleed on his floor. That was the sentence that broke something. Dante closed his eyes once. When he opened them, he looked at Maya, and the apology was not in words yet, but it was. There, heavy and late. Then he turned to his lawyer, placed Victor's phone beside the brass tag, and said very calmly, Freeze every account they touched. Freeze every account they touched, Dante said, and nobody in the glass room mistook calm for mercy again. Victor Hale was not dragged out. That would have been too generous to the kind of man who had built betrayal behind polished doors. 2 security guards walked to either side of him, and Dante's lawyer placed a printed hold notice on the table before Victor could reach for dignity he had not earned. Adrienne stood near the transparent glass, still beautiful, still composed, except for the lipstick trembling at the corner of her mouth. Dante removed the engagement ring from the inside pocket of his jacket, the one she had not yet been allowed to wear publicly, and set it beside the brass tag. No wedding, he said. Then, to the lawyer, no settlement without admission. The words moved through the room colder than shouting. Crane's contract was voided before midnight. Victor's access was revoked while he watched. Adrienne's office was sealed, her charity accounts locked for audit, and the altered payroll files were copied in front of the board, the staff, and every VIP who had pretended not to hear Maya when the night began. But the part Maya remembered most was not their faces as they lost power. It was what happened after the glass doors opened and Dante did not send the staff away. He called them in. Dishwashers with wet sleeves, servers with aching feet, hostesses still holding menus against their chests like shields. 9 women from the torn shift log stood together near the dessert cart, each one recognizing her employee number before she recognized her own hurt. Dante stood at the head of the room, but he did not sit. Your tips were taken, he said. Your complaints were buried. Your names were used in rooms I should have been watching. His jaw tightened on the last sentence. That ends tonight. One by one, the lawyer read corrected payroll records. Uniform charges removed. False guest complaints deleted. Stolen tips restored with penalties. Forced non-disclosure forms canceled. Medical insurance reinstated for 2 women Adrienne had pushed below full-time hours. Maya's brother's inhaler was not mentioned in front of strangers. Dante handled that privately, through a benefits fund he placed under board oversight so no one could call it charity from his pocket. He offered Maya money once. She shook her head once. Fix the file, she said. Spell my name right. The next morning, in the staff hallway, the old schedule board was gone. In its place was a new one behind glass, with every position typed cleanly, every hourly rate visible, every manager signature dated. Maya Brooks was listed as floor captain, not because she had been rescued, but because the room had finally admitted she had been right. The broken chair was not thrown out. Maya asked for it to stay. Weeks later, it sat in the training room beside the brass tag sealed in evidence plastic and a small sign Dante had approved but Maya had written. No worker's dignity is a prop. On her first night running the floor, Maya wore a clean black apron with her name embroidered in white thread. The old phone stayed in her pocket, cracked screen and all, not because she still feared no one would believe her, but because it had believed her first. At closing, Dante found her in the quiet dining room, checking the legs of a chair before sitting. She noticed him notice. For once, she did not apologize. She pulled the chair back another inch, sat down slowly, and rested both hands on the table like someone who belonged there. Dante placed a hot cup of coffee beside her and said nothing. Maya looked at the room that had once waited for her to fall and whispered, "It held." Dante lowered his eyes, and in the silence that followed, power finally did what truth asked of it. It listened.